All right, hello and welcome to Camel Finance. I'm your boy Camel, and today I want to start by dispelling this funny myth. So I'm going to play you this 1 minute clip, and then we're going to laugh at how absurd it is. So we'll get into that. I've got plenty of Bitcoin metrics and charts to show you, and most of them look really good. I think I also want to show you a couple of trade setups that are coming, a couple of trade ideas. I want to show you that the traditional finance markets are actually set up to go further to the upside. So even though sentiment is really bearish, I'll show you how bearish it is. It's actually more bearish than the great financial crisis. I still think that could provide fuel for further moves to the upside. So anyway, let's get into this. First of all, I want to start off by playing you this clip, which is circulating. So I'll play you this 1 minute clip first.
This guy was buying on Silk Road, and he deposited his Bitcoin, and then when he withdrew it, there was a bug that gave him twice as many Bitcoin, so he kept creating more accounts, putting more money into Silk Road and getting more Bitcoin. And then years later, the authorities figured this out. James Zong, the accused, had a Lamborghini, a Tesla, a lake house, and was living his best life, apparently, when the feds knocked on his door and found the digital keys to his crypto fortune in a Cheetos spicy flavored popcorn. And there's the tin of it, where he had a motherboard of a computer that held
Is
the
there
keys.
a chance that this claim that you can have all these anonymous transactions actually fooled an entire market? Because it looks like that this anonymity has effectively been reverse engineered and there's no anonymity at all. And so what Bitcoin is quickly becoming is like the most singular honeypot of transactional information that's complete and available and public. And I think what this article talks about is how companies like Chain Analysis and others have worked now for years, almost a decade, with law enforcement to be able to map all of it. And so now every time money goes from one Bitcoin wallet to another, they effectively know the sender and the recipient.
So that is the kind of alpha you'll find on TikTok. This is being sort of celebrated and championed by the Ethereum and the XRP community, who both claim to have superior coins to Bitcoin. So I just want to go over a few facts here. I want to point at things and just show you the advantage of not being emotionally invested into a single coin or asset. I want to show you the advantage of being able to think for yourself and be objective here. So in no particular order, let's address a few things. Let's address the elephants in the room. First of all, if you're one of these Ethereum people that is championing the idea that Bitcoin has lost its ability to be an anonymous currency, well, let's just, can't even say this without laughing. Let's just have a quick reminder that the Office of Foreign Asset Control, which is owned by the US Treasury Department, has the ability to censor your Ethereum transactions. Okay, at one point, just months ago in November, they had 73% of the Ethereum blocks following their proof of stake merge were OFAC compliant. This is meaning they could censor your transactions. The US Treasury Department can censor your Ethereum transactions. Okay, so the idea that Bitcoin is inferior is a complete joke. Okay, so now that that's out the way, let me just be even more clear. That's not to say we don't trade Ethereum. We took a long, we closed it recently on a trendline breakdown, happy days, locked in the profit, okay? So that's not to say we can't make money with Ethereum. But it is to say that if you're in this camp of Ethereum is better than Bitcoin, Ethereum's going to flip Bitcoin, then you really need to look in the mirror and ask yourself what exactly it is you're championing here. Now, in all fairness, this is mostly being celebrated by the XRP community. Now, again, full transparency. I recently took a long here and then got out on a trendline break, I think around here, locking in 16% profit for XRP. I did this live on the channel. It was called out well in advance. And I'm currently actually championing this idea that we're going to see a big dive down here and then a breakout. And that breakout I'm going to go long again on. I think this is going to be a massive trade. And I'm excited to get in on a trendline breakout whenever this occurs. I'm going to call this out live on the channel. I'm going to take this trade live on the channel, just like I do with all my trades, and we're going to see what the market can give. I think this is going to be a massively profitable trade when it finally breaks out. So this is not to say you can't make money on these tokens. I do, and I will continue to make money on these tokens live on this channel. But keep in mind the entire bull thesis for XRP is that this is going to be a bridge currency between central bank digital currencies. That's your entire bull thesis, and you have the audacity to come out and say that Bitcoin lacks anonymity. Okay, now, again, in no particular order, let's continue to make more points about how nonsensical this really is. One, if you're a Bitcoiner, if you own Bitcoin, did you actually buy it because you wanted an anonymous currency? You probably didn't. Now, that's not to say it can't be anonymous. First of all, you can get non-KYC Bitcoin, and even if you have KYC Bitcoin, you can do things like CoinJoin, CoinMix, and then shuffle a bunch of wallet addresses around and actually have anonymous Bitcoin. It's entirely possible to have anonymous Bitcoin. Yes, the barrier to entry in terms of the technical skills required is kind of high, but it's not impossible. And of course, there is a caveat to this, because if you convert your Bitcoin back to a fiat currency, which of course a fiat currency is linked to a bank, which is linked to your identity, then yes. But this is true of any cryptocurrency. If you're going to convert a cryptocurrency into a fiat currency, then you are going to lose your anonymity. However, if you really wanted to do that, there are ways around it. There are ways that you can do peer-to-peer transactions for cash and other mediums of fiat currency for Bitcoin using peer-to-peer exchanges. So there are ways around that as well. You can make your Bitcoin totally private and anonymous if you choose to do so. The reason most people hold Bitcoin is because they want the hardest form of money on the planet. They want something that is resistant to the massive amounts of fiat currency debasement that we experience every day of our lives. Bitcoin remains the only secure database on the planet. And the idea that the XRP community or the Ethereum community can come out and laugh at Bitcoin because it's not as anonymous as people would like it to be. Meanwhile, their coins are censored by the US Treasury Department. And for XRP, the escrow, they hold, Ripple, the company, holds 70% of the tokens. I mean, and we're going to come out and try and attack the privacy of Bitcoin. I mean, this is your introductory meme, okay? This is your introductory meme. So I think it's worth ending my rant on the following point. Do not be part of an XRP army or an Ethereum community or any group or herd of sheep. Do not be a sheep, okay? Just be objective. You can hold all three of these tokens if you feel like you need to. You don't have to pick one. You don't have to say, I'm all in XRP. Bitcoin is trash. Bitcoin is a failed project. Bitcoin is the number one by market cap for a reason. Okay, it's also the only one that has a predictable future of monetary policy. Ethereum just recently changed its monetary policy when it merged to proof of stake. And if you still think that Ethereum is better than Bitcoin somehow, then let me ask you this. What's the issuance schedule of Ethereum? That's right, you don't know. Nobody knows because it hasn't even been decided. No one knows. So anyway, this is just nonsense. I don't know why people want to celebrate this. I don't know why people have to group up and herd up. And one last point to make. If I'm right about this, and I'm not necessarily, okay, I get things wrong all the time. But if I'm right about this, and then we break out, and XRP goes on one of these absolutely monster pumps, like I suspect it will. If I'm right about this, the hilarious irony in all of this is the majority of XRP investors that waste all their energy being angry at Gary Gensler and the SEC, and they contain all of this hate and malice towards this guy they've never met for their corruption and blah, blah, blah. A lot of those people are going to panic sell down here. Right? This is how markets work. They're going to have wasted all their energy being angry at Gary Gensler, get down here, panic sell, calling for lower prices, and then the price is going to break out and wreck everyone. I mean, this is just how markets work, right? So anyway, the message is simple. Just be your own wolf. Don't be a sheep. Be your own person. Be your own mind. Author your own consciousness. Okay? Make your own decisions. There's nothing wrong with owning all three tokens. You don't have to pick a side. And the same is true of gold and silver. It's okay to have Bitcoin and gold and silver. You don't have to pick one or the other. Anyway, I'm not sure how many minutes I've been ranting. I hope you enjoyed my rant. I hope it wasn't too annoying. Let's move on, okay? Look, just recently somebody moved 6,000 odd Bitcoin worth $180 million, and they paid just $11 in transaction fees. This is the magic of Bitcoin. This is why Bitcoin is the best form of money on the planet. No one else can do that. Plus, this transaction could not have been stopped. It could not have been censored. There's nothing anyone could do to stop this transaction occurring, and it would have occurred in 10 minutes or less. A $23 billion banking group over in Switzerland is going to launch Bitcoin and crypto funds this July. The smart money is waking up. This is no coincidence, by the way. This is no coincidence that as Bitcoin enters a new bull market, leaving behind its lows at $15,600, more and more of these banks are rushing and racing to embrace Bitcoin. Speaking of banks, did you know Bitcoin is actually the most valuable bank in the world? So you can see the market caps here for all of these banks, and Bitcoin sits in the number one spot. Of all of these entities, it is Bitcoin that has the largest scope for multiplying this market cap over the next 10 years. And as if this is not enough, the world's first Bitcoin accepting real estate firm just launched in Texas. So you can now buy a house with Bitcoin. Again, this is going to be a trend that continues. People are going to be more and more willing to swap their house for Bitcoin as time evolves. So, as I'm sure you're all aware, Bitcoin is currently in the middle of taking a much needed pullback after a month of rally with no correction. With the latest drop, the 4-hour RSI has reached levels not seen since FTX crashes. Lots of people are championing a move here to 25k, including myself. But would Bitcoin be so generous? Will we definitely get that drop? According to the RSI, maybe, but maybe not. This is what the Bitcoin chart would look like if we do not get that drop all the way to 25k. We are possibly going to bounce off of this trend channel, as you can see here, as we did before in 2020. So is this what's coming? Maybe. We'll get to the charts in just a bit. One thing that is worth noting is if you look at Bitcoin's purchasing power anchored to Bitcoin halvings, right, and then stack them on top of each other, you can see that the current cycle in red at the bottom is really not doing anything out of the ordinary so far. So it'll be interesting to keep an eye on this. It'll be interesting to know if we deviate either to the upside or whether we deviate sideways or downwards, or perhaps we're just going to repeat what we always do and do something like this, right, before blasting off after the halving. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. But so far, can't really say anything other than Bitcoin is continuing to do Bitcoin things. Whilst the short-term price action seems grim to many, behind the scenes, the weekly RSI has broken out of a 6-year downtrend and is now attempting to flip it into support, as you can see here. So if this could turn out to be breakout, retest, and resumption higher, expect the price of Bitcoin to continue to the upside. I've shown Kush's parabola a few times. As you can see, this is a weekly chart. Nothing out of the ordinary to be seen here. Apparently working on base 3 before what we often see as a doubling in price. So we are more than on track, even if we have a continued pullback down to around 25k. T analyst here also sees a parabola. As you can see, we got the RSI looking to continue to climb and make a parabolic advance as the Bitcoin price does the exact same thing. Again, we'll know if we're wrong over the next 30-ish days if we start to deviate away from this. T analyst here also pointing out that the advanced decline line indicator, whenever this is signaled down here, as you can see, this is always marked the bottom of parabolic advances for Bitcoin. So we now have 3 of these signals. Does that suggest that we are going to continue to see another parabolic advance for Bitcoin? I would speculate that it likely does. The long-term holders continue to stack Bitcoin. They continue to reach all-time highs. Long-term holders are not only not selling their Bitcoin, but they are buying more. And the story continues to be a bullish one over in the traditional finance. So you can see here, Henrik still calling for this blow off top move. On a monthly chart, you can see the MACD wants to flip bullish for the first time. The RSI is coiling up, ready for an explosion higher. And whenever these conditions have occurred before, we've always seen massive upside in the stock market. So are we about to see a run to all-time highs for the stock market? And if you're wondering what could fuel this, well, according to the COT report, speculators are holding the biggest net short position on the S&P since the great financial crisis. So you can see down here, people are more short than ever. They are more sure of themselves than ever that we are going to see some kind of 2008 style plunge evolve in the near future. But as it stands, the path of most pain would be a face melting rip higher before we then go into the Great Depression 2.0 with a great reset. Just before I get into the charts, I posted this on Friday. Here's one for the gold bugs. Could it be that we are putting in the final dip before the blast off in gold? Is this what is playing out? Behind, as you can see, is Livermore's speculative chart. I've seen this exact pattern play out with oil just a couple of years ago, roughly. And that was what made me think, I wonder if we're going to see this same thing from gold. So speaking of gold, I entered a short position on Friday. I don't usually like to take positions on a Friday, but I did flag this, the reason for this, in Thursday's video. We've had this trend line breakdown in blue. We are currently contained underneath this red resistance line. If we break out above that, I will close the short because that will be a flag break type deal. So we'll have to respect that and close the short if it occurs. But all the while we're underneath this red downward sloping resistance line, then I expect us to target the bottom of this support here into this daily cycle low, which is due around the 8th or the 9th of May. So can we get it? Can't we get it? I don't know. It'd be really nice if we could get something like this and then by the breakout here, flip long, close the short at support, and then flip long on a breakout. That would be a really nice way to play this trade. And as I said on Thursday's video, the reason I need to put this short on really is not only for the technical reasons, but silver's still kind of hanging around in no man's land. The gold miners, as you can see, are back to break even and have fired their first early warning sign by breaking down at this blue upward sloping support line. The junior miners are stopped out as of Friday. So we don't need this anymore for the junior miners. And the silver miners, as you can see, also stopped out. So I've got to pay a couple of stops there. We've got the miners still open. We've got a long on silver still open. But obviously, if gold is going to dive down, then those other two positions are likely to get stopped out. So I'm hoping I can pay for the stops with the flush in gold should it occur. Of course, if this gets stopped out, then hopefully gold miners, the senior miners, will bounce from here, and the silver position as well will continue to the upside. So I should be okay to walk away with some profit or around break even in any circumstance that occurs from gold, but of course that's to be determined over the following week. The dollar really could go either way, couldn't it? So it at the moment is holding double bottom. It needs to clear above here for me to say that we've got a buy side impulse occurring. Otherwise, I would kind of expect this to range and break down. So that's to be determined this week as well. Notice how the yields, that could be a bull flag before higher, or it could easily be a start of a rollover. I would think that given we've got the FOMC coming up in early May, these are likely going to continue to reprice the additional 25 basis point hike, which is currently priced in about 85%, I think. Let me check for you. So you can see 89.1% chance for a 25 basis point hike in the 3rd of May. So it's likely we're going to see the yields continue to climb slightly this week, and that could well pressure risk assets in the short term. So we'll see how that goes. Here's Bitcoin. So I said I wouldn't want to be buying the dips until we broke out of here or bounced off of support. As you can see, we've done neither of those things. So I do think a counter trend bounce here would be reasonable, but given where we are in the cycle, I would expect this thing to then roll over down to, I don't know, maybe 25k. That would be logical as the range breakout region, or in the worst case scenario, if the market makers want to upset a bunch of people, all the way down to 22k for a touch of this upward sloping red support line into that 9th of May timeframe. And then I think it's time to add a whole heap of exposure wherever that occurs and take this move to the upside. Not interested in Ethereum until we can make a cycle low for Bitcoin, so I'll come back around the 9th of May for Ethereum and see what can happen there. XRP, as I kind of alluded to, I think this is the situation that's going to play out, so it might be a good few months of sitting on the sides and waiting to see what happens. Not really interested until we can get above this downward sloping red resistance line, but I actually expect us to have a really deep flush before that can occur. So one day at a time as ever. Stock market, so S&P is still hanging on to this, currently have no position. Even if this thing is to bounce up higher, I still think that cycle low has got to come around the 9th of May, and that's where we'll be looking to get long again. So we'll see how many of these key levels of support we can hold into that cycle low. But for now, no position for me in the S&P. The Nasdaq's still holding above this level. Given where the cycle for the S&P is, I wouldn't be surprised to see a sort of dive down into the 9th of May before it can return higher. The Dow as well, similar thing. This could be a bull flag that breaks higher, but I wouldn't be surprised to see some sort of chop and a drop before we go. Notice how the VIX cannot move up for a day at all, can it? It just keeps getting compressed. We have now broken down, looking to kind of retest this breakdown level before resuming lower. So a lot of people are saying that because the VIX is down here, we need to be long the VIX, or it's an imminent crash that's got to come and we're about to do something like this. In hindsight, if this is to occur, it will be really obvious. But as it stands, there's absolutely nothing to say that the VIX can't just do this over the next few months. So I'm not looking to jump in and long the VIX here, get above this red downward sloping resistance line, something like that, and it could be a long from me. Apple, kind of a boring trade this one. It's not really doing much, but it is slowly making higher highs and higher lows. So all the while we're above this upward sloping blue support line, I'm happy to continue to push this long. The same is true of Nike, isn't it? So breakout, retest of the breakout level, and now hopefully looking for a resumption higher. Same as Apple, really. Kind of boring, but all the while we're above this blue upward sloping support line, then I would expect this to continue to be a long from me. And lastly, the crypto-related equities. It looks like I might have to pay a stop on Coinbase. It looks like it's probably, I don't know, maybe it's going to chop around sideways, drop into that cycle low and go. So maybe I'll pay a stop here. Maybe if I do, I'll probably add it back on the cycle low. I don't know. This is showing relative weakness though, and I think the capital might be better allocated to something like MicroStrategy. So I wouldn't be, again, it's going to do the same thing as Bitcoin, right? It's probably going to bounce up and then drop down into the 9th of May and go. And at the 9th of May, we'll be looking to add exposure and move the stops up. The exact same is true of Riot. So for now, holding this, but I wouldn't be surprised to see something like this occur into the 9th of May before we can go. Again, though, looking to add exposure. And it's the same deal for Marathon. So far, breakout, retest, resumption possible, but I will have to be open to seeing something like this into the 9th of May, where again, I'll be looking to add exposure. So I hope that's clear. I hope you found value here today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you had a lovely weekend. I hope you're ready for the week and looking forward to it as much as I am. In the meantime, take care from me. All the best. Cheers. Bye.